to share about how to update SQL files when updating component in Joomla 5. So in Joomla 5, if we create components and in new version of that component, if we want to update the component and if we want to update the SQL files also, so we can update them without removing the original data. For example, now if it is 1.0.0 version and in 1.1.1 I want to change some data in database, and if I update them, it will not remove the original 1.0.0 data. Otherwise, if we uninstall the older version and install a new version, it will remove all the data. So it is a good practice to update the component, not to reinstall a new one. We have to update the component. So I'm going to share how to update the component SQL files, and when we update, it will work in the database also. Here I have created a component, and in my main entry XML file, this XML file, first if we want to install the component, we have to give the method as install and give the version 1.0.0. this is the first version, and now I will install this component folder. I will create a zip package for this, and in the system install extension, I will install this component. I will drag and drop. Now installation of the component was successful. So here, when I install the component, I give the install SQL file as the file installation SQL install.sql. so in the admin folder under installation install.sql. so when we install this component, it will install this SQL file in the database also. So if I go to my database table about this project, there we give the table name as test testing. I will search here test testing. This is the prefix of the table. So this SQL file is installed when we install the component. So first, to install the component, we have to add in this install tag, and if we want uninstall the component, it will work in this uninstall tag, and here in the uninstall.sql I remove this table, I drop this table, so it will remove one and install this component. Now when I update this component, update mean I have installed this component, and now I want to change some files, some codes in my component and update the component. In that case, we have to change to method upgrade. This is the first one, and change the version number. I will change to 1.1 because I will change the database also. And for the updates, I will create a folder and this installation updates, and when we update this component, we want to update the SQL file also. So we have to create SQL file, but the SQL file name should be the same as version name. So in the update new file 1.1.1.sql. so when this 1.1.1 version is installed, it will work on this 1.1.1. Here we have created the updates table, update SQL file. In this update SQL file, I will update this SQL file. I will rename the table like this. I added a rename table, testing, and it will change to this name. So when we install 1.1.1 version, it will work this 1.1.1.sql and it rename the table. Now we have to call this updates folder in SQL file. If you want to add in other version, for example, if you have updated 1.1.1 and in 1.1.2 1.2.1, if you want to update new SQL file like the same, create new file and give the version number as the same as this version number, and you can update, you can create many SQL files and it will update according to your version number. In a new version, if you don't need to update the SQL, you can leave as it is. For example, in 1.2, you don't need to, if you don't need to update the SQL, you can leave as it is. But in a new version 1.2.3, for example, in a later version, here if you want to update the SQL, create 1.2.3.sql. so there is a file missing 1.2.2, but we don't need to update the SQL, so we can leave as it is. Only if we want to update the SQL, we have to give the same as version number and create SQL file like that. Now I will remove it and give the version as 1.1.1. now 1.1.1.1.1.sql. now we have updated the SQL codes also. Now we have to call the updates like this: install and install. We have to create a new tag, update. In this update, create a update tag, and inside this we have to create a schema, schemas, schemas, and inside this add the schema path, and the type is MySQL, and we have to add the path of this updates folder. This update folder is in an install folder, installation folder, and the installation updates folder. Now we don't need to add this 1.1.1.sql. It will automatically work when the latest version, if it is given the same as version name, version number. So we have to add only the folder directory, and you can notice here this installation folder is in admin folder, but we don't need to add that admin location. Joomla will automatically detect this file, so we have to add only this installation updates, and you have to take care about that. This install and install as update should be under this administration or under this outside this site folder and outside of this administration folder. If I add this install and install update inside this administration, it will not work because it is not related to administration or site. It will relate to all the project, both in admin and front end, so we have to add outside of the administrator. Not only administrator, outside of this front end files and outside of this administrator. So these are the steps to update the SQL file. The first one is we have to change to upgrade and change the version number and create SQL file the same with the same name as version number, and update the SQL codes if you want to update, and create this update schema and add the update folder directory. And we have to add outside of this administrator and outside of this site. Now we can install and update this component. Now I will go to this. Now if I go to manage extension, if I search for test, there you can see the test component is now original 1.1.1, the older version I installed. I will remove this older version and create a new zip file for the latest update scope. And now I will install this. We don't need to uninstall the older version, it will automatically update. Sorry. There you can see installation of the component was successful. If I go to manage extension, the test version is changed to 1.1.1, and if I refresh my table, sorry, this table has to remove because we rename it. So I rename as new table name. There you can see it has changed to new table name, and it has the data. It has the original data that we add when we first install it. So it updates the SQL code, but the data remain the same. It renamed the table, it updates the component. So this is the way of how to update the SQL file and how to update the component without uninstalling the older version and without removing the older data, so that in large application you can update with this process and you don't need to remove the data from the database. Otherwise, if you uninstall this version and create a new component and install a new one, it will remove the data. So we have to update like this. So this is the way of how to update SQL files and component in custom Joomla 5 custom component. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for your attention.